The rain didn't just fall, it shattered against the pavement like the thousands of promises he had made. I stood under the porch of the small coastal chapel, the lace of my wedding dress soaking up the grey, muddy water. I was 28, and I looked like a ghost waiting for a life that was never going to arrive. The white silk, once a symbol of a beginning, now felt like a cold shroud clinging to my skin. In my hand, I crushed the letter. It wasn't written on fine stationery or scented with the memories of us. It was a cold, typed memo on company letterhead. Thorne Global. The company I had named. The company I had bled for. The logo stared back at me like a death warrant. I can't do this, Julianna. Looking at you reminds me of the person I was when I was starving. I need to move forward, and you are my past. Carrying you with me feels like facing that weak man every single day. The house is yours. Please don't call. I didn't cry. My tear ducts felt frozen, as if the shock had turned my blood to ice. I simply looked at the ring. A diamond bought with the profit of a patent I had written while he slept. I realized then that I hadn't just lost a husband. I had been liquidated like an unprofitable subsidiary. Julianna Vance was no longer a human being. I was a footnote to be deleted from the success story of Elias Thorne. 5 years ago, Elias Thorne was a man with a brilliant mind and a failing heart. He was a visionary without a penny, working out of a damp basement while a chronic illness slowly drained the colour from his skin. I was a rising star in data architecture, with a bright future and a stable life. Then I met him, and I chose his life over mine, burying my dreams like a foundation stone beneath his feet. I remember the nights in the hospital, the smell of antiseptic so thick it felt like I was breathing needles. When his startup was failing and his medical bills were piling up, I didn't hesitate. I worked 3 jobs. I was an engineer by day, a waitress by night, and his secret developer by dawn. I sold my parents' antique jewelry. I even sold my small, peaceful apartment in the city to pay for the experimental surgery that saved his life. "I will give you the world, Jules," he would whisper, his voice a frail thread as he recovered in that cramped ward. "Once I'm standing, you'll never have to work another day. You're my savior, my queen." I didn't want the world. I just wanted him to breathe. While he recovered, I sat by his bed with my laptop, writing the foundational code for what would become the Sentinel, the world's most advanced predictive market AI. I was the architect. He was the dreamer. But in my love, I let him put his name on every document. I thought ours meant forever. I didn't realize I was building a throne for a man who would eventually find me too small to sit beside him. The surgery was a miracle. Elias didn't just recover, he was reborn. The pale, trembling man was replaced by a titan of industry. With my code and his charisma, Thorne Global didn't just grow, it exploded like a supernova. We moved from the basement to a penthouse where the clouds felt close enough to touch. The hospital gowns were replaced by 3-piece Italian suits. But as his bank account grew, his memory began to fail. He didn't forget the code. He forgot who wrote it. He didn't forget the surgery. He forgot who paid for it. He began to view my presence as a debt he couldn't repay, and he hated me for it. "You should stay home today, Jules," he started saying icky years into our success. "The board meetings are stressful. You've done enough. Why don't you go shopping? Get that spa treatment you like." He was pushing me into a gilded cage. He started bringing home roses not to celebrate our love, but to apologize for his absence. And then came the new vision. A 22-year-old marketing intern with a perfect smile and no memory of Elias when he was coughing up blood in a basement. I saw them together at the summer gala. The way he looked at her wasn't with the heavy gratitude he showed me. It was a fresh, untainted hunger. I was the reminder of his weakness. She was the trophy of his power. The day after the wedding that never happened, I didn't descend into a depression. I went back to that damp basement where I had kept my old servers. Elias thought I was a quiet coder who lived in dreams. He forgot that a woman who can build an empire can also find its self-destruct sequence. When I wrote The Sentinel, I didn't do it with a plan for revenge. I did it with a plan for protection. I had built a heartbeat protocol into the core of the AI. It was a secondary encryption layer that required a specific biometric key, my own, to verify the integrity of the data every 5 years. Without it, the AI wouldn't stop working, but it would start to drift. It would lose its accuracy, making increasingly erratic predictions until it eventually crashed the very markets it was supposed to protect. The 5-year mark was approaching, and Elias, in his haste to delete me from his life, had forgotten the fine print of the software he claimed was his genius. He thought the keys were in his vault. He didn't realize they were in my DNA. 6 months passed. Elias was at the peak of his arrogance. He was about to sell Thorne Global to a massive conglomerate for $3 billion. He was the tech king, engaged to his intern, and living a life built on my sacrifices. The night before the merger, I sent him an invitation. Not a letter, but a digital ghost on his private server. We met at the old, abandoned pier where he had first told me he loved me. He arrived in his black SUV, looking annoyed, checking his gold watch. "What is this, Julianna? I've given you the house. I've settled the accounts. What more do you want?" "I don't want your money, Elias," I said, my voice as calm as the dark water behind me. "I want to show you the mirror. I don't have time for riddles. I have a merger tomorrow." "No, you don't. You have a crash." I handed him my tablet. The screen showed the Sentinel's core logic. A red countdown was ticking. 12 hours remaining. "The heartbeat protocol," I whispered. "It needs a key, Elias. My key. Without it, your miracle starts lying tomorrow morning. By noon, you'll be bankrupt. By evening, you'll be under investigation for fraud." He turned pale. The same sickly hospital ward pale. You can't do this. Give me the key. I'll pay you. 10 million? 50? You still don't get it, I laughed. A cold, hollow sound. You told me I reminded you of your weakness. You said you needed to move forward without me. Well, here's your future without me. It's empty, Elias. Just like you. Jules, please. I loved you. No. You loved what I could do for you. You loved the liver I helped you heal, the blood I helped you keep. You loved the code I gave you, but you never loved the woman. And now, you don't even get the code. I didn't give him the key. The next morning, as the world watched, the tech king fell. The merger collapsed within the first hour of trading. The board of directors realized the AI was compromised. Elias tried to fix it, but he couldn't even navigate the first layer of my encryption. He was a salesman, a face. He had never been the architect. The lawsuits followed. The penthouse was seized. The trophy fiancé vanished as soon as the credit cards were declined. I sat in a small cafe in a different city, watching the news. Elias was being led out of his office in handcuffs, looking older and frailer than I had ever seen him. He looked like the man in the basement again, but this time there was no one to save him. I took the last of the money I had legally protected, shares he couldn't touch because of the way I had restructured the company in the early days. I didn't buy a penthouse. I bought a small art restoration studio by the sea. I realized that the hardest thing I ever had to restore wasn't a painting or a piece of code. It was myself. The rain had finally stopped, and as I looked out at the horizon, I knew that I hadn't burnt his kingdom down because I hated him. I burnt it down because it was built on my land, with my bricks, and it was blocking my view of the sun.